I sure will. Thank you. Hi, Adam.
Adam, hey, good to meet you, Billy Ray.
You as well. Thanks so much for chatting with me.
Absolutely.
So, I'm going to start out with the most basic question ever, but I'm curious, where did this idea originate? Like, how did it first come to you?
That's a great question. It's not like a one moment answer because there are a bunch of things in my life I think that would kind of led to the development of the script. One was I grew up in the Phoenix area. I was in Phoenix. I was in high school when the Phoenix Lights incident happened in 1997. I remember I had a family friend that saw them, and through the years met other people who saw them, and it was just always a really interesting, to me, a very interesting jumping off point for a story. Um, and then, I grew up in the 80s in the era of Carl Sagan and the Voyager probes when we were first seeing pictures of planets that we had never seen up close. And I've always been really fascinated with space. And in Arizona, if you get out of the cities, get out into the high country, it's beautiful stars and I just really I think I always wanted to tell a story set in kind of the Arizona wilderness. Um, but then a lot of the character development, I think, came from a documentary I directed about 10 years ago called The Business of Recovery, which is about the addiction treatment industry. And in the making of that documentary, I met a lot of individuals struggling with substance abuse and other addiction-related problems. I met a lot of experts in the field, and I kind of got a firsthand sort of exposure to some deep connections of trauma and substance abuse and the challenges that a lot of people face. We unfortunately some of the people that I met during that time passed away from their own substance abuse challenges, and later after the film was completed, and it was always this sort of haunting um, thing in the back of my mind. I felt like I needed to do something with this knowledge beyond the documentary after it was. I mean, that documentary definitely got a lot of attention, but when I started writing these characters, I think a lot of that experience kind of seeped into my writing.
Yeah, because I wanted to ask, this film is it's dealing with a lot of issues and topics, and usually I don't see that sort of ambition. I mean, I'm just making the natural assumption that this is a low budget project.
Yeah, it's an indie film, so
Yeah,
but
and you're
yeah, I
tackling UFOs and the immigration crisis and drug addiction, but it all works. And I was so delighted when all of those threads sort of met, and I was like, wow, this is an indie film that's able to juggle all of this, and I'm not used to seeing that.
Oh, no, thanks. Yeah, it was. Yeah, I mean the migrant story was also just growing up in Arizona near the border. I mean, I had heard for years about the struggles of people, risking everything to come to the United States, people dying in the desert. I mean, it's nothing new. But also, to me, the demonization of migrants has been around since the beginning of this country. I mean, in the early 20th century, I mean, you read about how the Irish and the Italians and Jews and people migrating from Eastern Europe, like that was the main place people migrated from back then, and they were ostracized back then. They were called criminals. They were called. So to me, the film doesn't try to make any sort of political statement. It's more just about um, celebrating our differences and embracing what makes us human, because it's really about the human connection, I think, in the movie
Yeah.
that kind of makes it work. I hope. Like that.
Yeah, well, I mean that's part of it, right? Is like it's both a film, it's both a UFO film, but also not. And it's both it's kind of is all of those things and isn't all of those things, but at the end of the day, I do think, or at least for me, it worked best as just a character drama. And that's what I was really enjoying of. And I'm curious, obviously, like you said, this is a low budget film, but it does not for one moment look like a low budget film. And I think a lot of that is just the gorgeous cinematography. And I'm curious, how did you work with your DP in order? I mean, the night skies and the sunsets in this film are just like, so like, how did you work with him to make that happen?
Oh, that's great. Well, Aiden Chaperone's my DP. He's based out here as well. Very talented guy, and he brought in a very talented team with him too. But from early on, when we were starting to do pre-production, I had a very detailed sort of visual structure of film, all the choices were very intentional in terms of the lensing and when we were seeing stars, when we weren't, because all the star shots, the stars had to be brought in post because you can't expose for the stars and you're out. It's just not possible with a camera. But but the stars are real stars. They just were different, separate plates that were brought in. And my talented effects artist Brian Tooker was able to bring those in. But yeah, we shot in the Superstition Mountains, which is an area kind of southeast of the Phoenix area, but is driving distance. We were in this ranch on this private property, deep in this canyon, like 8 miles off dirt road, deep into this. I busted a tire on a location scout. It was like out there, but it was accessible in that we weren't like hours out of the city. We were there. But I finding that was very important. I mean, I did a lot of work too with my location manager, Brian Bukovic, who helped. We were doing our own road trips trying to find where to shoot this, where we would really capture that feeling, because it was an important character to me that the landscape had really came through and contributed to the sort of emotional experience you'd have watching the film.
No, and it certainly does. I've been to the desert, like most people, a few times. I mean, I haven't spent a ton of time there, but it both made me terrified of the desert and as if I want to go tomorrow and see all of, the beautiful landscape. Um, in terms of casting, because there were so many faces in this film that I was not familiar with. And again, independent films sometimes have difficulty in consistency, right, across performances. Everybody in this film I thought was so pitch perfect. I mean, I knew who Connor was just from, Gossip Girl and, other things, but everyone else was a discovery for me. What was the casting process like? And where did you find all of these like wonderful actors?
Uh, well, we had Helen Gear and Kendra Clark were my LA casting team. They worked together, based in LA, to cast our leads, our six leads. And then Bella Hibbs was my Phoenix-based casting director to cast all the other supporting roles locally. But for the LA casting directors, I mean, wasn't about where the cast was based. I was just trying to find the best cast that I could for the film. And we had a lot of conversations about. I mean, they were very familiar with the script, and I talked about the characters, and then they started bringing in tapes, until it takes a lot of searching to find to make that choice, because I mean that is, as a director, the biggest choice you can make is the casting, because that embodies, there's so much that people think a director controls everything, but you really don't. I mean, those are the choices. Those performers are going to bring the whole other dimension to the film. But yeah, then we started doing, once I had found Kat, we started doing some chemistry reads with our potential tailors to find the right brother sister chemistry, and they were so great together as like a brother sister. And
Yeah.
and Connor, I mean, Connor was such a great job bringing in this character who you kind of hate but also feels very earnest.
Yeah.
It was like, because we were trying to strike a chord that would be real, but also like he wasn't coming from a place of like malevolence, I guess. He
Yeah.
just had all these false assumptions and just really felt strongly about them.
Yeah, he's the type of character you want to smack in the face, but also hope he gets his 100,000 subs.
Right.
Um, yeah, no, he was terrific, and again, like I now have so many actors that I'm looking forward to seeing in the future. As I said earlier, I think it's a little reductive to call it a UFO movie, even though that is certainly a thread that goes in there. But I am curious, what were some of the films that were sort of rattling around in your brain when you were developing this? What are some of the films that, you know, were inspiring you during this process? Maybe they were UFO films, maybe they weren't.
Um, well, I mean, I think movies like Close Encounters always sort of stuck with me. I mean,
Yeah.
and I'd watched a film, an interesting brother sister film. I think it's called You Can Count on Me. Have you ever seen that one?
Oh,
It's
it's
yeah.
terrific. Yeah.
There were certain films that sort of gave me some inspiration for elements of the story. Some people have said that there's a little bit of Twister in this movie too, although I didn't consciously think of that movie, but
I have to tell you, so I just finished my review for this film, and I compare Connor's character in the film to Carrie Elway's in Twister. So it's there. It's
Yeah.
there.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, there was another interesting UFO indie film a few years back, the Vast of Night. Have you seen that one? Which I
Love it.
thought was
Love it.
and I think, and you have a good point about UFO film. I mean, sure, the film is not about the UFOs in the sense that it is a character piece, and that's always was my intention. But I think the best so-called science fiction films are about truly human stories and connection. I mean, there's something to be said with sci-fi movies that are able to find that balance and not just be about the spectacle. I mean, spectacle is great, but there's also an amazing opportunity to tap into this sort of human search for meaning, which is a very common thread.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I want to close out again. Thank you so much for chatting with me, but I want to close
Absolutely.
out and I want to ask you the same thing I ask everybody else. What is a film other than your own that you think people should check out right now?
Oh, like an older film, possibly, or
Could be
anything?
could be brand new, could be old, could be a home video on your shelf.
Sure. Well, there's a film that I've always loved that I think has some relevance to today that I think younger people may not be aware of, called Brazil. That was by Terry Gilliam in the early 80s, and it is about a dystopian society, and it is about getting lost in a system, and it is just a fabulously designed film that is just don't expect happy endings, but aside from that, it's a great, just know that it is what it is, and you have to accept it. There apparently was a studio version of that movie that was a happy ending, but the real version is the one you should watch. So
Yeah, I don't want to see that movie with a happy ending. Uh,
anyway,
Thank you
that's it.
so much, Adam. I
Thank,
appreciate your time.
thanks for having me, Billy. Thank you.
Absolutely. Bye bye.